Around here, there's a bunch of crooks around here. You ain't supposed to be in that jail, boy. Get out of there, man. No, that's a total no, man. Vodka in.
Is my salary going up?
Bahamian people gotta wake up.
This is my 5 cents and I approve this message.
Good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned into MB12 Weekend, broadcasting from Cable 12 Studios on Robinson Road. Coming up tonight in news, the Free National Movement leader calls on the Prime Minister to fire Renwood Wells.
I don't know what's in the Prime Minister's head. What I can say, if I was Prime Minister and the FNM was in power, Wells would not have been here. If I had asked him to resign, Wells would have given a certain time to resign. That letter would have been on my desk immediately, and if it had not been there, he would have been dismissed immediately.
A young father is killed in a tragic car accident this morning. North Eleuthera's representative says joblessness is leading to an increase in crime on the island. Plans to promote playwriting and performances at the Dundas Plus. Get beach ready with fitness tips from the pros. I'm Paige McCartney, and we've got those stories and so much more straight ahead on MB12 Weekend. Welcome once again to MB12. Free National Movement leader Dr. Hubert Minnis is calling for Prime Minister Perry Christie to fire Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Works Renwood Wells immediately. He questioned why Prime Minister Christie hasn't fired Wells yet for signing a $600 million letter of intent with Stellar Waste-to-Energy Company. Last week, the Nassau Guardian exclusively revealed that Wells was asked to resign over the matter. We understand Wells had intended to do so last week, however, that did not happen. Minnis pointed to the Manual of Cabinet Procedure, which outlines that a parliamentary secretary may only handle matters assigned to him by the minister of his assigned ministry on his behalf. The FNM leader said signing that letter directly interfered with the portfolio of Minister of the Environment, Ken Dorset, and not even Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Works and Urban Development, Philip Rafe Davis, could have given the order.
Under the Manual of Cabinet Procedure, not, and I repeat, not even the Deputy Prime Minister could have authorized Wells to sign a letter of intent, which impinged upon the portfolio responsibility of a different cabinet minister or ministry without full cabinet approval.
Minnis said given that the established rules of cabinet government were violated, Wells should be fired. He said there's a clear conflict between the plans of the Ministry of Environment, which announced a deal in June with Renew Bahamas to manage the dump site, and to the Ministry of Works. Minnis questioned whether Wells acted alone.
If this Prime Minister was worth his salt, he would have fired Renwood Wells within an hour of Wells' refusal to resign. The fact that he did not fire Wells raises more questions. But we return to the aforementioned. What did the Prime Minister know? And when did he know it? The people of the Bahamas surely deserve a full explanation.
Minnis called the deal shady, adding that more than $500 million is a lot to invest.
The Prime Minister must do his duty if Renwood Wells would not. The Prime Minister must fire Wells and fully explain this sordid situation to Bahamians. If he does not, Bahamians will connect some dots. The opposition will not let the matter rest because it may be indicative of larger issues that are being kept from the sight of the Bahamian people.
The Prime Minister has remained mum on this issue, and the only comment came from Deputy Prime Minister Philip Rafe Davis, who said last week that there ought to be concern. Minnis said the opposition will continue to press this matter and will pose more questions to government on Opposition Question Day in the House of Assembly. In other news, a family has been left shaken after a 31-year-old father of one became the country's latest traffic fatality victim. Police have launched an investigation to determine what caused the vehicle to crash into a pole, killing the man and leaving a woman in hospital. Kyle Joaquin was on the scene. He filed this report.
Relatives of the man killed in a traffic accident this morning rushed to the scene to see for themselves how their loved one's life came to a tragic end. Police say the man and a woman were driving south along Bethel Avenue North shortly after 4 this morning when they lost control of the vehicle and crashed into a lamp pole. The impact of the crash then sent the vehicle flying. Superintendent Stephen Dean explains what happened next.
The vehicle careened along the walls of a cliff and landed suddenly on the highway. We can tell you that driving the vehicle was a female driver and there was a male passenger in the vehicle. The male passenger succumbed to his injuries at the scene. The female was transported to the hospital where she is being treated by doctors there. The extent of her injuries are unknown at the moment.
Now, NB12 understands the victim is 31-year-old Andy Wallace, the owner of Michelle's restaurant on Rosetta Street in Palmdale. On the scene, family members were told that he suffered severe head injuries. His brother, Scott Taylor, says he only happened to be driving with his other brother when he saw the commotion.
My other brother called me, just to tell me that he was having a problem with his heart. He believed he having a stroke. And he just let us here because he told us he was home. We went there, he wasn't there. He said he was by Sanders Beach. We went there, and then we just traveled down this highway, and that's when we saw the police tape and all the persons we know. My other brother calling me, telling me what he was. I think he was reacting to what happened, and he couldn't say it. He just was telling us come to this area, but he didn't want to tell me what it was.
So how was it when you found out that this was your younger brother?
When I got on the scene, I saw his friend who lived with him, his truck, and that's when I learned of it.
Head of the Road Traffic Division, ASP Craig Stubbs, urges drivers, particularly those returning home from a late night out, to drive safely and be mindful of their state before getting behind the wheel.
If you consume alcohol to that extent, you feel as though you are incapacitated to drive, we ask you to find a designated driver. We ask if you go in groups, have one person as a designated driver to commute back to your residence. We ask motorists on the streets in the morning time to obey the speed limit. Most definitely the speed limit must be obeyed at all times. The speed limit, once it's obeyed, it will decrease the amount of accidents we see on the streets of New Providence.
Now behind me, you should be able to see a few of the scratches where the car glided along the wall before it came to a crashing end. Again, at this moment, police are unable to say whether speed was indeed a factor or whether or not he was wearing his seatbelt. They say those are things they will have to determine later on in their investigation. Reporting for NB12 News Weekend, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
And police are reporting that the victim of a shooting early this morning died in hospital, making it the 4th homicide in 4 days. Reports are that the victim was walking to his vehicle from a nightclub on Apple and Peach Street at around 3 this morning when he was shot several times by an armed assailant. He was taken to hospital where he died a few hours later. Investigations continue. Meantime, police are investigating a second shooting that took place Saturday morning at Hillside Park off Mackey Street. Police say at around 8:30 a.m. a man and a woman were accosted by 3 gunmen who robbed them of cash and shot the man twice before escaping on foot. Police are also investigating 2 stabbing incidents that took place overnight. The first incident happened just after 1 this morning, where 3 men were involved in an altercation with another group of men at a nightclub on Gladstone Road. The men were stabbed and taken to hospital where they're listed in stable condition. The second incident happened just a half hour later at a takeaway restaurant on Carmichael Road. A man was stabbed after getting into an altercation with a group of men. He is also listed in stable condition in hospital. And more from the police, they're investigating the attempted assault of a woman that reportedly took place at a Paradise Island beach on Friday. Police say 3 men attempted to sexually assault the woman. Investigations are ongoing in that matter. And a 20-year-old resident of West Palm Beach, Florida, was arrested by Harbor Island police after they found him in possession of a quantity of marijuana on Saturday. He's expected to face formal charges in court sometime this week. Now, North Eleuthera Member of Parliament Theo Neely says his fears that crime in his constituency could increase if there's no decrease in unemployment. Although the latest jobs figures show an overall decrease in unemployment in the country, Neely says residents of Eleuthera are still having a hard time finding work.
We see now more foreclosures, people losing homes, people getting more frustrated. And basically, as I pointed out, and I've debated in the House and showed the statistics coming from Europe, where they basically studied at that time on the connection with unemployment and crime, and basically unemployment is a strong connection based with property crimes and petty crimes as well. So we can expect that crimes will increase if unemployment rates are not dropped.
While he acknowledged that there is a general need for jobs on every island, Neely says residents of Eleuthera feel the government is ignoring their cries.
There's certainly a big and huge complaint from a lot of my constituents, a lot of those working in the hotel sector, of being underemployed. I mean, it's working and making basically the minimum wages and working few hours. Their hours have been cut back, their days have been cut back, so they're having a difficulty paying bills, feeding their families, keeping their lights on, keeping the roof over their head, paying that mortgage.
Now, the big issue, Neely says, is that available jobs, particularly in the hotel industry, are being filled by foreigners. The FNM MP says he has raised the issue in Parliament on numerous occasions. However, he has seen no effort on the part of government to assist the people of North Eleuthera.
Basically, they have not responded. I've tabled many questions on the floor as it relates to the jobs, especially at the Cove, at the hotel in Eleuthera, and they have never answered those on the House floor. And I'll continue bringing them up. Like I said, the issues in Harbour Island is with employees being underemployed, basically making a minimum wage, working less hours, cutting days back, and that traditionally happens, especially in the summertime, but we've seen a cutback more than usual right now.
And shifting gears now, prominent attorney Wayne Monroe says he will not be increasing his legal fees because of value-added tax. Last week, State Minister for Finance Michael Halkitis announced that government's plans to add VAT to several services, including legal fees. Monroe says with so many lawyers around, it would be foolish for any attorney to overcharge potential clients because they can always go somewhere else.
The customer is going to come to you and tell you, I'm buying this house. 1,000 of your lawyers here would happily represent me. I want to pay X, and that's inclusive of VAT. You work it out, but that's everything, your fee and VAT. And for areas that are highly competitive, you're not going to be able to put up your fee. You're likely to have to swallow the VAT by adjusting your fee. In areas that are not so competitive, you might be able to do that. They're going to be the areas where the person comes for you as opposed to any of the 1,000+ lawyers who are out there.
Monroe says he wasn't surprised to hear of the government's decision not to place a VAT exemption on certain services.
There's nothing surprising about that. As I understand the regime, VAT will come with some duty reductions so that the cost of goods should actually fall, and the revenue will be made up on taxing services which previously wouldn't have been taxed. So that's just the way that it is. You're going to end up paying more tax by whatever new tax system you introduce. I don't care which one it is, you're going to end up paying more tax.
And several people, including BEC Executive Chairman Leslie Miller, have already voiced their disagreement with VAT being placed on light bills, but Monroe says he feels Bahamians should stop acting like victims.
The government has to pay for the things that it provides, and it decides to do it by taxation, and the people have to pay. And maybe that's why the people should be more careful about electing governments, but that's what happens. That's our system.
Stay with us. When MB12 returns, a new management team at the Dundas seeks to revitalize the theater and performance arts in the Bahamas. Stay with us.